delete me is asinine in and of itself. Another thing, I'll give the game away. Here's your piece of paper. Do you want to get canceled again, Logan?
You're saying a call like that was made?
100%. The dude's a bitch.
Lady of yours that you introduced to us yesterday said, this is my wife. I don't even know if I'm convinced you want to have 5 wives.
And that's a very astute observation, and you are correct. But I won't believe in it. I don't want to believe in things that make me weak.
Suddenly the most famous man on the internet, and then all of a sudden gone from the internet.
So today's sit-down is a sit-down many of you have been asking about for a while, and we finally pulled it off. There's been no conversations of what we can't talk about. He said nothing's off limits. We're talking everything and anything. However he chooses to answer, obviously it's going to be on him. Today's guest is Andrew Tate. Many will call him possibly the most popular man on social media the last 6 months. Nearly 20 billion views on all social media. The most searched man on social. We were looking at the list. We put up Biden, we put up Trump, we put up Putin, we put up everybody, and he was up there. Some periods he was above everybody else. And recently he got banned in late August. I think the 3rd or 4th week of August, he got banned late August. And at that time, from June to July, his Instagram account was growing at 100,000 followers, new followers on a daily basis, on track to get to 10, 20, 40, 50 million followers on Instagram. Suddenly like this, he gets banned. Everybody's wondering what happened. Some had positive thoughts about it. Some didn't have positive thoughts about it. We'll get into that as well. But Tate, appreciate you for making the time in. It's good to be spending these few hours with you.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here, guys. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
So let's get right into it. So this banning happens, and we've had a lot of different people in the past get banned. I'll read some of the people on why they got banned.
Sure.
And I think the first question we want to get into is what everybody wants to know. No one still knows. Everything is pure speculation. Trump got banned on all social because of the insurrection.
Yep.
Alex Jones promoting and inciting violence, whether it's Sandy Hook, whether it's Pizzagate. Eventually, they just said, we got to kind of cut this off.
Yep.
Milo Yiannopoulos got banned in 2016 from Twitter for inciting harassment of SNL and Ghostbuster star Leslie Jones. Louis Farrakhan was banned for anti-Semitism comments spreading hate.
Yep.
Rob Kardashian was banned in 2017 for a revenge porn picture of his ex-girlfriend, Blac Chyna. Kanye West was banned temporarily for repeated posts that threatened both Kim and Pete Davidson.
Yep.
Rihanna got banned because they called it inciting horniness, believe it or not. That's what it was called. And for posting a topless photo of herself. Then she later on came back on. Rose McGowan got banned in 2017 off Twitter for calling out Ben Affleck for his business relationship with Harvey Weinstein, and that lasted 12 hours. Chelsea Handler in 2014 for posting a nude picture. Many were upset when she did that, but she did post it. Marjorie Taylor Greene got banned in 2022 for repeated tweets in which she shared false and dangerous info about COVID-19.
Oh, false and dangerous.
That's what they called it.
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, that's very interesting.
And then PewDiePie was banned from Twitter for making a joke about ISIS. Okay. So why did Andrew Tate get banned?
They did not tell me. They did not send me an email, no correspondence. I certainly didn't break terms of service. I guess that's why they couldn't send me an email and explain why. Nobody told me, whether it was YouTube that banned me or Meta that banned me. They banned me instantly and forever without any kind of correspondence. They've not told me why. They've not told anyone what I did. The media machine, in synchronization with the ban, we can call that coincidence if you want to believe in such things, came out with some kind of bullshit explanation that I'm misogynistic or some garbage. But the actual social media companies themselves provided no explanation at all, no correspondence at all. They just deleted me. That was it.
Now, are you doing anything about it? Are you having your legal team trying to find out why they did that, or you're not taking any action right now?
I do have a lot of things happening behind the scenes. However, and perhaps I'm becoming optimistic in my old age, but I believe that in due course, the social media companies will realize the mistake they made. I think that, and like I said, I don't have intimate knowledge of the workings of social media companies, but assuming they are semi-professional to any regard, and that is a big assumption, but let's assume they're professional. That means that when they ban somebody like me, especially the most Google search person on the planet, they must have teams which are analyzing in real time the response to said action, right? Mm-hmm. They should have people sitting there on the ground analyzing. Now, they attacked me with their media machine because first they shut you up so they can lie about you. So they shut me up. than they did the massive media push to try and attempt to lie about me. But despite that, the majority of comments regarding me are still positive. The majority of people believe and understand that this ban is unfair. And if these companies have any degree of professionalism, they're analyzing this in real time and they're understanding that this makes us look very bad. People didn't believe the lie. People didn't believe what we attempted to smear this man with. Nobody's buying this narrative. And this is going to have a negative effect on us for a very, very long time. Because when you're in charge of the world, which they are, as soon as you're no longer seen as just and fair, you're seen as tyrannical. And once you're seen as tyrannical, then there's going to be some kind of mass movement against you. So if I was a social media executive, I would sit and I would analyze the data and I would say, listen, guys, we will have a monopoly. We want to retain our monopoly. Let's be smart here. Being known as tyrannical amongst the public consciousness across the entire planet is going to make it very difficult for us to hold our monopoly for a longer period of time, as opposed to being seen to be fair. Even if we're biased, we must be seen as fair.
Sure.
As soon as we're seen as tyrannical, that's when the revolution. Look at Ceausescu. As soon as you're a tyrant, that's when everyone hits the streets.
Yep.
So I think that if they have any kind of serious data monitoring and if they have any kind of serious business professionalism, they are now talking in dark rooms, understanding that this has played out very badly for them. And if they intend on keeping their monopoly into the future, that they need to change something. Maybe I'm being optimistic, but we will see.
Who was the first one to take you off?
Meta.
Meta was first. So
Meta.
Facebook, Instagram.
Facebook, Insta, bam.
Okay. And then it was a domino effect.
Yeah, so Meta took me down. So it's quite interesting, actually. I had a YouTube channel for a while. It was never so large. I had 738,000 subscribers. It took me a long time to build it up. I got a strike on YouTube, which prevented me from posting. It's got a strike. No big deal. The next day, Meta took me down, deleted my Facebook and my Instagram. The press came out at exactly the same time in sync, saying that I'm a misogynistic, dangerous person, that I'm harmful, that I am the reason that the world is not a perfect place, world hunger, you name it, all my fault. Attacked me across all of this. And I thought, okay, let me film a message that I can get out on my YouTube, my final message, which I don't know if you guys have seen. I ended up putting on freetopg.com. Let me film my final message explaining how this is unfair and unjust. We filmed it, we produced it, we got it all edited within 12 hours, head to toe ready to go, but we couldn't post it because of the YouTube strike. So we're waiting for the YouTube strike to expire. A few hours before the YouTube strike expires, guess what happens? They banned me from YouTube. Then they banned me from Discord. Then they banned me from Airbnb. They banned me from Stripe. I can't even remember.
Airbnb?
It was just emails coming in faster than you could believe. Banned.
So it wasn't just the socials.
Oh, no. The Matrix presses a button, my friend.
Yeah.
And every app on your phone stops working. Uber. You name it. Uber.
Stop.
You name it.
Wait, you can't use Uber?
Well, I can use Uber. You just start a new account, right? But
Yeah.
oh, sorry, Uber. Catch me. But
But your main account on Uber was taken.
they take everything from you.
Everything. Coordinated effort all at once.
Coordinated effort all at once. Every single one of them just goes, no. Delete. And they come at you and they come at you with everything.
And
Banking,
Stripe.
banks.
Payment processor.
Oh, and banks. UK-based banks as well. High Street, banks. But I can name Santander, HSBC, Barclays, etc. all at the same
Massive
time.
banks.
Oh, no, sorry. To change, we've decided because blah, blah, some bullshit, some letter, close your accounts. So they take all your banking, they take your payment processing, they take all your social media presence, they take your Discord, they take your Skype, they take all your accounts, your ability to communicate with people, and then they lie about you in the press. And they leave you there. they leave you there to suffer. They attempt
on
to
one hand, you
harm
can understand the social component. All right, these guys are probably all working in unison.
Yeah.
But when you hear payment processors, banks, apps like Uber, how are you processing that?
No, I mean, that's why he has to do something about it. Because, you know, for me, there's plenty of great lawyers. Did you hear about what happened with Alex Brenneson lately?
Eric
Did you follow
Berenson?
Alex? Is
Yeah,
it Alex?
Berenson. The writer?
Alex Berenson, I think
I heard he sued Twitter or something. I don't
he
know.
sued Twitter.
Yeah.
Did you follow the story?
I don't know the exact story. No.
So he was on Joe Rogan. If you've not seen it, I highly recommend you watch this. So he is saying things about Twitter. Matter of fact, the tweet that got him in trouble, got him his fifth strike, was the following tweet. We can put this up there because I'm just reading what he said. This is a tweet he put out that he said, it doesn't stop infection or transmission. Don't think of it as a vaccine. Think of it as, at best, a therapeutic with a limited window of efficacy and terrible side effects profile that must be dosed in advance of illness. And we want to mandate it. Insanity. That's his tweet. So he gets banned
Makes a lot of sense to me.
In December of last year, which was 6 months after when Biden said anybody who allows debate of vaccine should be banned or shouldn't be allowed, meaning that there shouldn't be any of that. So 6 months after that, he gets banned. In April, a judge in California is, believe it or not, a very big freedom of speech place because they allow protesting. A judge that was appointed by Bill Clinton comes in and says, I'm allowing this to go through because typically Section 230 that is in place in 1998 was to protect social media sites and many of these online sites that if you offend your ex-wife or if you offend your brother, it has nothing to do with Facebook. So they kind of protected themselves. But Alex was able to go all the way because of this court judge that was appointed by Clinton, not Obama or Trump, but by Clinton. He goes in. Eventually, he says, you get to have two people from Twitter to come to court to defend themselves. So he could have gone to Jack Dorsey. Long story short, they finally lifted it. He is on Twitter and he's posting heavily talking about the fact the reason why he got banned is because the government didn't want him on inciting what he was inciting. So the moral of the story is when you say something like that, for someone like you seem like you're a methodical guy. You're a chess guy. Your dad's a chess person, 5-time United Armed Force champion, 5 times, 6 times Indiana State. You were playing at 5 years old against 16-year-olds. You don't play chess without being strategic, thinking about your next few moves.
Correct.
So if you don't do anything and bring lawyers in to the market, I've interviewed a lot of people who are in the mob. To the market, it sounds like they're right.
Absolutely.
But if you do and you defend yourself, you're not only doing it for yourself, but you're also doing it for others who maybe don't have your kind of resources to say,
correct,
hey, this guy's willing to stand up. He kind of helped change the law for me.
Correct.
Because the one case, it was the Sikhs against Facebook. That's the case that helped them out. India years ago didn't like this Facebook group that had Sikhs. It was a Sikh Facebook page. So India told Facebook to take them off. Facebook took them off. Then Sikhs sued Facebook. That became the precedence.
Nice.
So somebody like you can potentially set a new one against Section 230.
Absolutely. I certainly have legal options being explored. And I don't want to say too much on the podcast, but legal options are certainly being explored. We'll see how things progress across the next few weeks. But I have a very strong suspicion I will end up back on the media platforms, or they will offer them back to me. The question now at this point is if I even want them anymore, which is a unique question because a lot of people still believe that you can only have a significant presence in the world with these social media platforms. That's the source of their power. I believe there's huge pressure behind the dam in regards to the fact that everybody understands that these places are tyrannical and that they control ideas and that they force narratives. And I use my wording as the Matrix. I call them the Matrix. And people say to me, why do you call them the Matrix? And I say, because they project a false version of reality in real time that people subscribe to. If there wasn't an absolute blacklist on all opposing views during COVID-19, that bullshit would never have gone on for as long as it did. It went on for as long as it did, and they managed to purport a false version of reality for so long because you couldn't discuss the opposing side. We just talked about our friend here who got banned for saying something very sensible and logical. So when you get huge media companies that can literally alter in reality in real time by deleting the other side of an argument, they're creating a matrix, is what I like to call it. So I call them the source of the matrix. So people understand this, and there's huge pressure behind the dam. But the problem is people say, well, what's the alternative? And I think if someone could pave the way and put a crack in the dam by maintaining massive relevancy despite of a ban and still having a social media platform and presence which is respected on other platforms, I think it's going to do them significant damage. I think the pressure and the crack together is going to create something monumental. And already I've moved to Rumble. I only had 738,000 subscribers on my YouTube after 5 years of work. Post-ban, I moved to Rumble, which is a YouTube competitor. Stock price has gone up 36%, and I'm at 500,000 subscribers in 2 weeks. So I'm about to surpass the size of my YouTube channel within a month. YouTube stock's down, Rumble stock's massively up. So all in all, there's other avenues, but we'll see. I certainly agree with you that what they've done to me is massively unfair. They know it's unfair. I think the reason they didn't send me an email or any confirmation of what I did wrong is because they knew they were going to end up in court. and they didn't want to be tied down to their reason. They want to stay fluid and try and make up a reason on the day.
Yeah.
I've heard from very reliable sources that their terms of service have changed significantly post my ban. They've made up new reasons. Post ban, they've made up a bunch of new shit. So it's going to be interesting, but certainly, yeah, there has to be legal ramifications for what they've done. I don't take it personally, but I do take it professionally. And you're right. They were wrong. I have no reason to be banned. My Instagram is just cars. Like, it's just cars and a little bit of flexing. There's no politics. There's not even any points of view. I had no strikes. Nothing. It's just a hit piece. So
if there were betting odds, like if we did a poll, why do you think Andrew Tate was banned from all the social media platforms? And it was misogyny, right? You know, COVID stuff, against the governments, against system. If you were a betting man, where would you kind of place the odds?
Oh, I already know. Everybody already knows I was banned because I talked against the system, against the Matrix. They know
the system in general.
The system in general, yeah. I mean, someone compared me to Socrates, which is a compliment, but he was vilified. He ended up poisoning himself in Athens, and the charge against him was corrupting the youth. If you read about his poisoning and his arrest, they said he was corrupting the youth, but he wasn't corrupting them. He was inspiring them to challenge authority. He was inspiring them to think for themselves. When they were told something, instead of blindly complying, he said, look, analyze who these people are who are telling you to do X. And I even had a tweet I put out on my, I've been banned on Twitter forever. So I've been through 20 Twitter bans. I come back as undercover, whatever. But I've been saying I said, if you have a point of view that you are very strong in your adherence to, if you truly believe something, you need to sit and analyze whether it's your own personal experience that makes you believe something, or if someone else or something else has convinced you of this. And if they have, you need to then once again analyze that point of view and analyze who these people are and what they want from you. Do they truly want the best of you? If the news convinces you of something to the point where you're going to argue with your own family members at a dinner table, does the news really care about you more than your family? This is a genuine question. You need to analyze every belief you hold, where it came from, and then analyze what their intentions are. And if you start to do that, you look at something like COVID, for example, it's an easy one. You look at all the bullshit they were saying and you sit here and go, wait, these people don't care about me. If I had diabetes or I needed insulin, or if I had cancer, or if I got in a car crash, anything, they'd be hitting me with medical bills I could never possibly afford. They'd let me die. But they are insisting I take this shot for free on repeat. This doesn't make sense. And when you encourage people to think for themselves, especially the youth, that's what Socrates got accused of. He's corrupting the youth. And to be honest with you, a huge portion of my fan base were 18 to 23, 24-year-old males. When you have the youth, the masculine youth of the world, thinking for themselves, that's pretty scary to authority. Because it's the masculine youth of the world that is, one, the revolutionaries, and two, also, that's the backbone of the slave force. If you need people to go die in a ditch in Afghanistan, you need them. If you need people to work bullshit jobs in a coal mine with no health care, you need them. If you need people to blindly comply to bullshit, you need them more than anybody, more than you need the feminists and the liberals. You need the real men to go out there and comply with the bullshit, to live a shitty existence, to purport and prop up a system.
The warrior class.
The warrior class, right? And if enough of these men stand in one place and say, this is enough, that's when a revolution happens. Mm-hmm. So this is the most dangerous group of the demographic that the Matrix and the people are trying to control, and they have to have a narrative over. And that's why they're trying to weaken them in every regard. And when I'm sitting there saying, don't listen to the bullshit, become physically strong, think for yourself, prioritize your brotherhood above what the fucking Matrix is telling you, do not blindly comply, resist the slave mind, all these things I'm saying, they just sat there one day and said, wait, the most popular person on the planet is saying, don't listen to our bullshit. Delete.
Yeah, so I don't think I have an issue with somebody coming after my name, saying whatever they want to say. It's going to happen. That's a part of the game. The bigger you get, the louder you get. That's whether it's in business, theology, church, military, social media, you're going to have that happen. And Hollywood's going to happen to you. The concern is when we can't have debate. Right. There's nothing more powerful than you and I having a debate. You know, vaccine. In our family, we sat down, we had the conversation about vaccine. My dad's a conservative, 80 years old. He says, I'm going to take the vaccine, and I'm going to take the second shot, and I'm going to take a booster, and I'm going to take another booster. He went through all the boosters, right? And he says, but I'm doing it because of my age. I'm like, go for it. And hey, my nanny, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm taking this. Go for it. We had a conversation, and then we made a decision what people wanted to do. Nothing wrong with that, but to not allow that discourse to take place is a challenge. To be fair, I went on there, and I asked our research team, I said, guys, Tell me everything Tate said that's pissed people off. Okay, I want to read some of this stuff.
Sure.
And, some of it's rubbed some people the wrong way and some of it's offended certain people. But these are some of the things that you've said in the past before. You said, it's been proven that the smartest people in the world are men. Okay.
Correct.
I think you had that with Barstool Sports, and then they came out with the Portnoy and the highest IQ. And then later on, it was proven that most of the IQ was more men than it was women.
Absolutely.
Next, I will not administer CPR unless you're a hot female.
Yeah.
Okay?
So what's actually interesting is, and this is what's really, really important because it becomes a broader argument than just me and what's happened to me. And I want to make something clear to the social media companies also as a whole. A lot of the things I said were in longer format video on YouTube 3-4 years ago. And the way that social media is being produced and also digested has changed significantly in the last year. It's all TikTok. It's all YouTube Shorts. It's all Instagram stories. TikTok in real time has destroyed the attention span of billions of people. Have you ever watched somebody on TikTok? How long do they give a video before they get bored? How long? Watch someone. Next time you see
2
someone on TikTok.
seconds.
Boring.
Yeah.
Boring. Like your attention span is gone. You can no longer focus on the real world. You can't focus on anything. ADHD is being developed in real time from these apps, right? So the idea of me producing a 7-8 minute video like I used to, and people consuming all of it and understanding the context is gone. They'll take few seconds, like me saying I wouldn't administer CPR to a man, for example. And it was actually satire, of course. It's a joke. I talk at length about how
That's the part.
that's the whole point. It's a joke. But they take that one part, they put it on a TikTok, boom, boom, boom. They add some editing, they remove the tonality, they make it interesting and funny, and it goes viral. That's fine. But the point we now live in a world where anything you ever say can be taken out of context. Anything you ever say can be weaponized against you. And I'm not complaining. I don't believe in complaining. I believe in responsibility. And I'm not saying I didn't say them. I'm not saying I didn't mean it. I'm saying that most of the people who are upset by things I've said have heard a few clips out of context and never actually digested any of my content seriously. Because that was part of a very long video. The idea that I would let my brother die next to me, my own brother or my friend die next to me.
Because he's not a hot chick.
Because he's not a hot chick. It's asinine. It's an aim, right? But it's stupid to even believe it. But if you watch the whole video at length, that makes sense. But if you only see that, then it doesn't make sense.
You know what's crazy though? Because I'm sure you saw what Rogan said about you and the position they took when we're talking about you. And they're like, look, we need this guy.
Yeah.
Because he's got to keep talking about the stuff, and he's having a conversation with Brandon Schaap. I think it's Eddie. It's all these guys that are on there.
Our friend Brian Callen.
Yeah. And then they're like, yeah, this guy, we got to protect what he has to say. But then Jake Paul said, I don't roll with Tate. I'd love to knock his ass out. He said something like that. Yeah. But then he said, but what I do support is, free speech. But then his brother said something else. His brother said, the shit that Andrew Tate says will have a ripple effect much more dangerous than you can imagine because his narrative is truly hateful. His rhetoric has extreme negative energy in it, and it will affect impressionable young people that won't show for years from now, and it's dangerous. Now, this is what he said,
This
right?
is Logan Paul, you're saying?
But I want to say this before you comment on it. And then Junior supported you, Tucker supported you. I think the guys that like debate and comedians, people who appreciate humor, can understand that some of the stuff you're saying is funny as hell. You could be a comedian if you wanted to, but a person has to really pay attention to the comedy. But, some can run with it, some cannot run with it. Yeah. When you hear the people that support and don't support you, how do you process that?
So first things first, I want to make it very, very clear that Logan Paul is absolutely not really a tool of the Matrix. He's a bought and sold individual with no soul. He doesn't stand up for anything, and he doesn't mean anything he says. He gets pieces of paper from Susan or whoever else telling him what he's allowed to say on his channel to retain it.
You believe that?
100%. Not only do I believe it, he's proved it himself. He will flip-flop on any issue. He can be bought and sold. The dude's a bitch. Logan Paul is a bitch, and I will say that here publicly. If anyone wants, I'll fight him for free. The guy's an idiot.
No money needed to fight Logan Paul.
Logan Paul doesn't believe in any of the things he says. Logan Paul is a man. If you ever were unfortunate enough to consume his content, I get sent clips of it all the time by people mocking him. As soon as something comes out, whether it's Harry Styles wearing a dress, whether it's Lil Nas twerking on the devil, whether it's this, he just sits there and goes, yeah, this is great. Yeah, this is great. He is a talking piece. He is the mouthpiece for the agenda. The people have come along, people who are trying to force a narrative, and they said, look, we need to have some degree of control over the exact demographic that Tate has control over. We're going to use Logan Paul and attempt to use him And he sits there and just purports the bullshit points of view that the whole Hollywood establishment want him to purport. He doesn't believe in the things he said. He's told what to say. And because he was canceled before and it emotionally destroyed him, he sat on camera crying his eyes out like a little girl instead of being a man about it. He is so fearful of the mob and so scared of being canceled again that he's going to sit there and say anything he's told. He doesn't believe that shit. Before I was canceled, him and his boyfriend Mike did endless videos supporting me, laughing about me, saying how funny I was, tagging me on Instagram, inviting me places, etc. The second I'm canceled, they flip reverse it and shit themselves because they don't want to get canceled too. They are children. That's all they are. So Logan Paul's a bitch. That's the first thing about Logan Paul. And what's actually been interesting about this whole cancellation thing is it hasn't negatively affected me in any serious way because I've been saying on podcasts for years, I know a cancellation is coming. I knew it was coming. I knew that as I got more popular and more powerful to a degree that it was going to come. But what it has done is it has awoken the world, to anyone who's perspicacious enough to pay attention, to learn which individuals out here in the social media space actually have character and believe what they say, and which are completely bought and sold and are tools to the matrix. The people who have decided to stand up for me and say, no, this is bullshit, are people who have, to some degree, credibility. You know, this is people who say what they truly believe. But the people who were totally a fan and then post-cancellation shit themselves in 180 and to get a new piece of paper to talk from, that should tell out the public out there exactly who's controlled and whether these people have a genuine narrative that they're trying to report on the world. And it's interesting. Logan's one of them, and there's a few others. But I'm glad it happened just for that alone, because it's actually very clear. If you go to Logan Paul's last podcast where he's discussing me, all of his fans, and we'll talk about fans and viewers in a minute because I think they're very different things. All of his fans, which he has none of, all of his viewers are sitting there insulting him, saying, bro, you're a fucking bitch. Like everyone, all of his own watchers are calling him names because it's so transparent and so obvious what he's doing.
Fans versus viewers.
Fans versus viewers, very different things. So he doesn't have any fans. He has viewers. And Susan and the Matrix and the people in charge of social media companies are like, okay, we've set our media machine. Let me ask you guys questions as professionals. Let's assume, as professionals, let's assume what I'm saying is correct. Let's assume that the social media companies, when they banned me, set their media machine to all release thousands of news articles at the same time, trying to convince the world I'm an evil man. If they had that degree of power and influence, which I think we can all probably agree they do, don't you think they'd take their number one talking piece to the demographic, which is my fan, and give him a piece of paper and tell him what to say? Does that all make sense? Does that make sense to say, well, we told all the news to say Tate's bad, and all of his fans are 18 to 25-year-old men. Who do we have on YouTube who obeys us like a little cuck who speaks to 18 to 25-year-old men? Logan Paul. Okay, Logan, here's your piece of paper. Do you want to get canceled again, Logan? No, you don't want to get canceled, do you? No, Mom.
You're saying a call like that was made?
100%. The dude's a bitch. He 180'd from a super fan to talking about my rhetoric being dangerous but in 24 hours.
There's a difference between you saying who you think he is versus you making the speculation that he got called by somebody to say, here's a narrative we want you to take, or else we'll silence you.
Well, Logan is not capable of independent thought. So if someone didn't give him the narrative, he didn't think it up himself. The dude's an empty vessel. He says what he is told to say. Somebody, somewhere, told Logan what to say and what stance to take. We can argue whether it was a social media company, whether it was his manager who was fearful, whether whatever. But somebody sat with Logan and said, look, Tate's getting a lot of smoke. You were cool with him. Your boyfriend Mike was cool with him. He's getting a lot of smoke right now. You're going to bitch out. And he sat there and said, yes, sir. Yes, I will. Because he has no character or no integrity. If it was all the other way around, let's imagine he was getting canceled and I truly believed it was unfair, I'd sit there on my own platform and say, this is bullshit because I'm not bought, sold, and owned. He's an owned individual. So he's always going to say what he is told to say. He's always going to sit on podcasts, speaking to the youth, promoting Harry Styles wearing a dress, saying that it's great that Lil Nas twerks on the devil in real time for our children to digest, and then say, I'm dangerous to the youth, because that's what he's been told to say. Logan Paul has absolutely no capability for independent thought. And he has no character as a man. That's who Logan Paul is.
Now, you said he got canceled in the past. I don't think he ever got canceled. I think his channel was demonetized for 90 days, but they kept all his stuff up. He was never taken fully down like you were fully taken down. They just kind of demonetized.
This is for the Japanese.
This is when he did
forest.
The Japanese video where apparently he went to a place where
you commit suicide in Japan. Right.
Yeah, I'm not completely familiar with the absolute mechanics of its cancellation. All I do know is that he cried on television repeatedly. So the dude was obviously emotionally affected by it and is fearful of it. And when someone is scared of something, that's the tool you use to manipulate them.
Well,
he
let
is
me ask
scared
you,
of being canceled.
because when this happened to you, you're 35 years old, right?
Right.
You're a grown man. I know you like to joke. I'm an old man. I mean, you're in literally your prime, bro.
Correct.
When that happened to him, he was 23 years old,
Correct.
right? This was 5 years ago. I think he's 27 now, 22, whatever. You've had a lot more life experiences and been in fights, literally, proverbially, all that, versus someone who's 23. I could see where you're coming from, being like he's been groomed by this virtual governments, these digital media companies.
He needs them.
He needs them. He's
He
become
needs
a
them.
mouthpiece of them, is
He's
what
a
you're saying.
mouthpiece of them. He needs them. And you're right. He was younger at the time. I would like to think that Patrick has been through a much harder situation in his life at younger than 23 than cancellation and wasn't crying his eyes out like a little girl. So the dude's obviously emotionally soft. He needs them. And the reason he needs them is because Logan Paul doesn't have fans, he has viewers. And that's what's actually been highlighted to me significantly since my banning, that there's a massive difference between those two things. Logan Paul is a person who needs the platforms and needs the algorithms, and people will watch him, but they will sit there and most of them will call him names, but he will have views. That is different than having fans. When you have fans, if you look at me, for example, when I got canceled, they say, where's Tate? Where is he? I'll go anywhere he is. I'll download any app. I'll uninstall the other apps. I'll take his content and post it on the platforms they don't want him on. Where is Tate? That's a fan. And that's different. When you only have viewers, you need the algo.
Yeah.
I don't need the algo. As long as people know where I am, they're going to come. And it's a completely different scenario.
Whose playbook you think he's following? If you were to say, because isn't that the Hollywood playbook? Like you follow that playbook, and as long as because that's what you're speculating. He's following the playbook of you follow our narrative, we're going to give you the world.
I think that since the dawn of human time, anybody who had power understood that it was a particular demographic which is going to become dangerous to their power mechanism in the future. It's not a new idea. The idea that the Romans would conquer a Greek city and kill all the boys and all the military age males, it's always been the same, right? Who's going to cause us trouble if we want to hold this city? These guys. We'll get rid of them. So nowadays, I think what they're trying to do is neuter this class. They're trying to neuter this class by affecting them mentally and affecting their mindset and affecting their ability to think critically. And if you neuter this class, you're far less likely to have a revolution when you do something crazy. Like, I don't know, like, for example, imagine for 2.5 years, you wanted to lock everyone in their houses because of the common cold. Let's imagine you were going to do something tyrannical. You would want to ensure that this class of individuals were so busy concerned with either being depressed or jerking off or being physically weak or distracted. So they didn't all stand up and go, wait, this common cold can't hurt me. And I just started my business and I ain't going bankrupt for this shit. They don't want that. So they're trying to neuter a certain class of people. I don't really want to talk too much in depth about who I think they are because I'm trying to stay alive and I would never kill myself. But it's certainly happening. And I think anybody with a brain can see the narrative is out there. And the narrative is being purported and accelerated by all mainstream media channels. And people who are allowed to have a platform, such as Logan Paul, have sold their soul, cut their dicks off, and they sat there and say, yes, I will say what you tell me to say. Please don't cancel me. I am a fearful individual. The dude is a punk. And if he ever meets me in the cage, I will destroy him in real time for free. And he knows that.
What about the brother?
Well, Jake, at least, well, this is the interesting thing about those two, right? Because me and my brother have become the most famous brothers on the planet. So there's also a degree of jealousy involved.
I was just going to ask that. You get the Tate bros and the Paul brothers, and it's like this balance of power that's being shifted, and this
Completely.
sort of this dance that's happening.
It's interesting, right? Because you had the Disney brothers. The Disney brothers who gained a bunch of power and notoriety, and they were the most famous brothers on the planet. And they've now been usurped by my brother and I, who come from a very unfortunate background and grew up on the street and did everything ourselves. And obviously, the youth of the world today have an affinity and feel a synergy with us that they don't feel with the Disney brothers, because the Disney brothers had a very easy, privileged life. You know, they grew up relatively easily and privileged. You get a Disney contract, then you become a YouTuber. You've never really known struggle. I mean, you've had it pretty good. So there's a degree of jealousy involved. Jake at least stood up for free speech. Jake has said some negative comments about me. I've said a few negative things about him. But I have nothing personal against Jake. And also, I find it interesting that Jake and Logan are not even that close. They may pretend to be. Obviously, they're brothers. But Jake and KSI have beef. They're literally trying to hurt each other. Logan is KSI's best friend. When you ask Logan who would he choose between KSI and his brother in a boxing match, he's like, oh, I don't know, man. He can't even choose his own flesh and blood over some fucking dude he met. Their whole relationship is weird. If you insult my brother or you have any kind of problem with my brother, you have a problem with me. That's on site permanent. Like me and my brother are like this. But they're not like that. They have this weird relationship, and they've slept with each other's girlfriends and a bunch of weird shit. So I don't know what's going on with them guys.
Yeah, KSI did say, thank God Andrew Tate got banned. Go ahead. You were saying something?
I mean, we're talking about the Tate brothers.
Right.
And the Paul brothers, arguably the two most famous set of brothers in the world.
Right.
But you've got two sons, right?
Yeah. Well, listen,
similar age difference between these guys.
For me, here's what I like.
Yeah.
I'm a pro-competition guy.
Yeah.
Right.
The fact that he went on Rumble and he got 500,000 subs in 2 weeks, you know who wins? You know who wins?
The market.
The world wins.
Yeah.
The fact that he went on Rumble, got 500,000 subs. Good job for Chris for making that move, by the way.
We know
And we've had good conversations at the house with him. And he's making a move right now on our buddy, the guy we like, Russell Brand, and a few other guys.
Amazing.
But the stud, he's
CEO
doing the right
of Rumble.
thing. Yeah, he's
Amazing
doing the right
guy.
thing. Yeah,
Amazing
no
guy.
question about it.
Amazing.
But
guy.
go back to this. I want both to be competing.
Completely.
I got two boys. I want the Tates going against Pauls to go against this.
Completely.
I run an insurance company. We have a lot of siblings that compete against each other. It's great for the market. But where I was going, I said, who is Logan Paul's playbook he's following, right? He's 27. The video you talked about, 23, when it was in December in 2017, I want to say, when he was in Japan. The video with him and his girl when, you know, the what do you call it? The belt. That when you got kicked off of Big Brother or whatever it was in 2016. But that video is from 2012. 10 years ago, he's 25. So 23, 25, you know, you coming from that kind of an environment, you can kind of hold the two things at the same level of accountability. One is suicide. The other one is, you know, a extreme method of sexual, you know,
Consensual
sex that, you know, it is what it is. But this is where I was going with it. Years ago, and I'm just trying to see, because, you know, the whole thing, what would Jesus do? Everybody has a WW something do, right?
Yeah.
So Logan, when he did the Japan thing, the story came out, he was talking about it openly, that Rock's people said, hey man, you got to distance yourself from him. And apparently what he told is Rock's people contacted to say, hey, delete all the pictures that we have together, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe he's going into wrestling. He's following Rock's footsteps. Yeah. Rock is definitely somebody that if he ever wanted to run for office, that's a guy that could do it if he wanted it. I think Logan's another guy, whether you like him or not. I think he's got the pedigree to one day run. It doesn't mean you're going to support his policies, but he is a guy that's going in the direction of one day running. 20, 30 years, he could do it. So maybe he's sitting there saying, what would The Rock do? He distanced himself from me. Well, maybe I got to stop defending this guy and I got to distance myself from him. I wasn't going on the angle of, you know, Hillary Clinton, Calder, all these guys. No, I was going more, what playbook is he following?
I understand exactly what you're saying, but I would disagree. And the reason I would disagree is because that requires a degree of thought and intellect that Logan Paul does not possess.
You think he's an idiot?
No, I know he's an idiot. He's not thinking that far ahead. He's literally, someone has told him, say this, and he says it. It doesn't matter. And it's not just me. There's been loads of examples, and I put it on my podcast on Rumble, where we went through all the times where something came up, some controversial subject that people were discussing, is this good for the public consciousness? And the answer was always basically no. Is this necessary for children to be consuming? The answer was always basically no. But it was purported by the Hollywood elites, and Logan was always the number one person sticking up for it. He is bought and sold by somebody, whether his management team, whoever they are, they think it's good for him to act this particular way. He does not think for himself. He says what he is told to say.
But isn't that Hollywood in general?
Completely.
Right?
The Matrix.
Exactly.
The Matrix. So we agree. The Matrix. The agents of the Matrix. Some minds are not ready to be freed. And those who are not ready to be freed are going to sit there and they're going to defend the system. What does Morpheus say himself? He's sitting there defending the system. Logan Paul is going to sit and pretend that the world is going to be a better place if you remove all opposing ideas. And he's going to sit there and say that because he's a moron. Anyone with a brain understands that if you care about your children and your children's children, they need to live in a world full of healthy competition, exactly as you said. As soon as you remove all opposing viewpoints or all competition, you end in tyranny. And anyone with a brain will sit and say, if he had any kind of character, he'd say, I completely do not agree with what Tate says. However, deplatforming is wrong because of X. He doesn't have to talk about me or what I've said. He can sit there and say, no, deplatforming is wrong because we need to have opposing viewpoints, opposing ideals. Idea A, idea B, the truth is perhaps in the middle. He has no intellect.
You
can
disagree with somebody.
He can't do that. He's not smart enough.
Yeah.
Tate's bad today. Okay, tell me when he's good again. He's a bought and sold individual. When my hero arc completes, because we're at a transition stage, when my hero arc completes, and much like Batman, people understand that we thought he was the bad guy, but we realized we needed him. And when I come back to save Gotham and the hero arc completes, you'll see him and his little boyfriend back on Instagram saying, Tate's funny, and swap again because it's allowed. That's all he is. He's
That's your prediction for him.
Not prediction, is absolute matter of fact, especially it also couples in with the fact that he's extremely jealous of my brother and I's success because my brother and I's success is not based on the same successes that he enjoyed. His success is based on being a clown. That's why he has viewers. He puts on a Pokemon suit and he jumps around like a clown. He doesn't sit there and give ideas or say things that make people think to the point where they genuinely resonate with your mindset. He's not intelligent enough for that. He's a performing clown as opposed to a philosopher. So they're different opposite things. And he knows that and it upsets him. He can't sit in front of a camera by himself and say words that are going to inspire the crowds of any city in the world to shout your name. If I were to walk through Madrid right now, there would be young people shouting my name. Top G, Top G. That's because of what I say. Mm-hmm. He puts on a Pokemon suit and does a dance. He's an entertainer. He's not a thinker.
Did we not just have that conversation yesterday?
They're different things.
Right. And this is sort of to your credit. We were having this conversation because we knew we'd have this sort of dialogue. And he said, Pat was asking me, Adam, what do you think? I said, you got to understand something about my perspective on Tate is 95% of what I've seen about Tate is camera to the face, him talking and spitting game.
Right.
When you're talking about the Paul brothers, it's fighting, dancing, all sorts of whatever. Right. I've never seen you in the ring. Yeah. I've seen your highlights, but I've never seen that.
Yeah.
So people know your rhetoric. They know what you're saying. And whether they agree or disagree, you're known for what's coming out of your mouth versus they're known for antics.
And that's the difference between a fan and a viewer.
That's what goes back to your
initial point. He has viewers because he's a clown. Clowns can have viewers. That's fine. And you need an algorithm and you need a platform for that. But if you have genuine fans like I do, they ban me. People are like, to this day, where is Tate? And they will go anywhere I am. Anywhere I am, they will come because they don't believe they can find my rhetoric or my ideas somewhere else. If you ban Logan Paul, they can find another moron to jump around in front of a camera for you. They can promote someone else inside of their algo and steal his entire audience inside of a week. He can disappear and they can replace him. He knows that. That's why he says what he's supposed to say. If I stop being the performing clown, the new performing clown comes. The algo favors him. They put him up there and he does a stupid dance and he gets all my viewers. I'm a completely different kettle of fish. Different story.
That was a great perspective of entertainer versus thinker, right? I mean, when you talk about, let's just say there's a dialogue about Joe Rogan, what are you talking about? So the other day, Joe had this guest on, and this person, and Joe said this, you're having a dialogue with another person. But if you talk about, the other day, man, Logan did this one video, it's hilarious. So that's where he's going is one is creating dialogue. The other one is creating entertainment. I can see that. And by the way, one thing, the day you got banned, we wrote up a story and we posted it on Twitter. And I said, so this guy's a threat to society, the way they're presenting it, right?